So guys, we're back on defense again, and this time we are looking squarely at debuffs, okay? DD, for all you non-dirty minded people. Hi, and welcome to Red Evony. I am Akayasha, you can call me Aka. So, we are continuing our series on defense, and this time looking at debuffs. We want to focus on debuffs for building a good defense. And there'll be two main points that we're trying to address here. How to know what debuffs you should get, and then where to get the debuffs. Now, for how to know what debuffs to get, this depends on certain factors. If you're just starting out, for example, you don't even need to bother about what debuffs to get, just get everything, all right? But largely, your debuff priorities will be based on what you're trying to achieve, okay? You can either have like a balanced sort of defense or a focused sort of defense, all right? And we're gonna go over those. But first, let me stop you guys here, okay? This is the part of the ride where we check your height and see if you're too short to make it onto this ride. Before we dive in and look at debuffs, if you don't know what your max debuffs are, there's a very good chance the rest of this video is not going to be helpful to you. You need to have an idea of what your max debuffs are. You basically need to get that from your battle reports, in any sort of PvP where you've taken a defense on your keep, or you get a friend, someone you know on your server that is really strong, has good generals, get them to hit you with their generals with like 10,000 T1 troops, okay? They do that with different generals, range, mounted, ground, even siege, and then you can check what your max debuffs are. Guys, if you're planning on coining in this event, or even the next, consider using Paxify. Paxify is a company that provides discount for gamers. So, it doesn't matter whether you're considering getting a pack or two just for some stamina, or you are planning on doing the full cake, maybe to get that new duty general gear. Everyone can save with Paxify. The discounts range from 10% up to 35%. And of course, the discounts get better at the higher end the more you spend. Plus, you could also get some extra perks and preferential treatment at the higher end. So there's decent potential savings there. Now, if you're not familiar with Paxify, aside from the fact that they provide discounts for other games, and they're doing it for Evony as well, I also have been using Paxify to help me save a bit on packs, and it's been great so far. If you're interested in checking them out, you can check for them on Trustpilot, where you'll get to read user reviews, or you can check out their website and the setup video that I did for Paxify. I'll have all the links that you need down in the description of this video. So if that sounds interesting to you, give Paxify a try and see if you can save a bit on those packs. All right, now with that said and done, I've already alluded to this, but for you to know what debuffs you should get, you really need to be studying your battle reports. In all honesty, the battle reports, I think, are the best way for you to know what your debuffs actually are. Once you know what your debuffs are, which ones you should get will depend on the kind of approach you're going for. I'll start off with the focused approach, because you get a lot of people that will tell you that the debuffs you should focus on will depend on what you get hit with first. Fine, there is some merit to that, okay? And if you want to go with that logic, you will need to have quite a bit of PvP experience, so you know what you're getting hit with. Typically, in most situations, you'll mostly be getting hit with archers. So in that sense, you'd probably want to start off with getting some range attack debuffs, all right? This changes as you go along. As you progress and start getting bigger, you will start getting hit with more ground. You will then start getting hit with more mounted, and then eventually you start getting hit with siege. So the concept of going with what you get hit with first really depends on the stage of the game that you are at, okay? Now, I've done a video on sub progression, which talks about what you need to focus on going through the various stages. I'll link it down below. It will probably be very insightful for this topic that we're talking about. So, if you're going with the case of go with what you get hit with first, it's very simple. If you get hit with range, get range debuffs. If you get hit with ground, get ground debuffs. If you get hit with siege, get siege debuffs. And it's very easy and straightforward like that. The only problem though is that what you get hit with first is doing a specific objective. It is targeting specific troops in your keep. So for example, if you get hit with archers first, the main troops that they're going to target are calves. Now, if you focus all your debuffs on range, fine. You'll make it harder for them to clear those calves. But what happens when they do eventually clear them? They will then want to look to hit you with something else. The question now is, do you have good enough debuffs to deal with those other things? Another case in point, siege, okay? People have, there's a frenzy for siege debuffs. Now, that's fine. You get siege debuffs, they hit you with siege. Okay, that's good. You defend against siege, great stuff. What happens when they clear your siege? Then they're going to be attacking you with other troop types, range, calves, and then the question is, will your debuffs be good enough to do that? So those are the things you need to keep in mind when you're doing the focus approach. If you're going with a balanced approach, which is like you basically want to have decent enough debuffs so you can counter anything that they hit you with, okay, that's good, all right? It's a safety sort of approach, and that's fine. Now, the issue with this one is that you'll be spreading out your debuffs quite a bit, okay? So you might not be able to focus them and get crazy high debuffs for one particular troop type, but it will make sure that you are not incredibly weak against any specific troop type. All right, now I'll use myself as an example, okay? I'll tell you what my debuffs are for the specific troop types. So we're talking about attack debuffs here, all right? Now, for my keep, my ground attack debuff right now is above 1000%. My range attack debuff is above 1600. My mounted attack debuff is above 1300. And my siege attack debuff is above 1700. Okay, these are not the exact precise figures, but this is roughly where my debuffs are right now. As you can see, I've been trying to go with a bit of a balanced approach, and I'm doing fairly okay. I would like to increase my ground and my mounted debuffs because with my current setup, those are difficult to do, but it's a work in progress, okay? So once you know what your max debuffs are, you study your reports, and you know what kind of stuff you want to defend against, it will make it clear for you what debuffs you should be trying to get. Now, where to get those debuffs from? There are several places that we get the debuffs from, and I'm going to talk about the very most important one. That's your sub-cities. Now, we come here, okay, so you look at your sub-cities. And of course, when we are talking about sub-cities, there are several factors that you need to consider in them. You need to consider the general that you have, okay? And the choice of generals that you can go with is wide, right? As you can see, these are the generals I have here. With those generals, you need gear, all right? So this is the kind of gear that I have on my general. We're going to come back and touch on these a bit before the end of the video. But the important thing that I want us to cover here is that when you're talking about sub-cities for debuffs, the most important thing is not the general or the gear. The most important thing is the number of sub-cities that you have. Okay, unfortunately, this is something that a lot of people either don't realize or they sleep on, and maybe they're not too concerned about it. I mean, it's more gratifying to focus on the generals and the gear and all that kind of stuff. But the important thing that you need here is more sub-cities. As you can see here, I have 10 sub-cities, all right? Some of you watching might have less than that. Some of you watching might have more. But the more sub-cities you have, the more debuffs you will get. It's a simple, straightforward logic. So if you're trying to build a good defense, as early as possible, please, 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 I'm begging you now, okay? Please, try and get as many sub-city slots as you can. And if you don't know how to get the sub-city slots, it's very simple. You come to your shrine right here, okay? You can see the points that are written here. These are your prestige points. You are basically competing with other players for these number of points, okay? These points will give you certain ranks. If we come over here to rank, and here, ranking, it will show you the various ranks. With those points, you are competing against other players for the different ranks. As you can see here, each rank has a specific number of players that are in there. So the more prestige points you have and you outrank other players, you can then move into the next bracket for you to get another sub slot. I have covered this in other videos. I'll put the links down below, but this is very important if you're trying to get more debuffs. You need more sub slots. So once you're done watching this video, come to ranking, okay? Check and see which slot you are currently in, which rank are you in right now, and see how close you are to the next rank. That's literally the distance you have to cover to get another sub-city slot. Now, aside from the rankings, the other way you can get sub-city slots is by increasing your VIP, okay? So, if you save up enough gems and things like that, you can come over to the auction and try to get VIP points in here. Get those VIP points, try and push yourself up to VIP 16, get another sub slot, okay? Or just buy more packs. And if you're buying more packs, consider using Paxify. You also get extra slots at VIP 18 and VIP 26. Then, for all of you high rollers, all right, you can also get the Glory Sub-City expansion slots here. And this one, you get here in the auction, right here. There we go, okay? This one is very expensive, okay? So you literally need to be saving up like something like 40 or 50 million gems to be able to get this one. But hey, I'm not holding you back. If you're rolling like that, do your thing, all right? So I'm hammering on this point that the number of sub-cities you have is important for you to build decent enough debuffs for you to have a good defense. Now, as for the generals, all right, let's come to my general list. Okay, so the generals that you want, it's really up to what generals you have available to you and basically what your spending budget is. There are very good sub-generals around, like Zudi, like Narcissus, like Simon, okay? But all these guys require cash and a decent amount of cash. So if your budget is up to that and you can get those guys, all right, fine. But if not, and you're trying to manage with whatever you have, take a look at my general selection, all right? Andrew Jackson, always a good choice. Hojo is the upgraded version of Andrew Jackson. Yon Gaisamon, decent one. Yan Carroll, decent choice. Darius, if you can get him, very decent. So there's a wide array of generals for you to choose from. And the way you continue to check which generals will work for you is by knowing what your debuffs are and what you need. And then based on what you need, you'll know how to adjust your general choices for the best thing. Then we talk about gear. If you want to go with a straightforward approach, all right, you start with Achaemenid gear, then you upgrade it to Parthian gear. It's very simple. The gear is really a no-brainer. You can literally copy and paste certain combinations and that's it. All right? I've covered this in the video I have in the link there. So you take your time, check it out, you'll know what to do. Then, aside from this, right, you can take it a step further and get Civ gear on your sub-general. So if we come out and we take a look at my Amir right here, I have all the Civ gear that I have in my subs on one general, which is also something I would advise you to do. Pick one general or maybe two generals, and all the Civ gear that you're going to have in your subs, just put them in there. Okay? Start with that. If you're splurging and you can afford to get more Civ gear, then you can put it on more generals, but start with just one or two, okay? And then, yeah, put some other pieces on the general and you're good to go. Then, the next thing that we're going to talk about is Spirit Beasts. Spirit Beasts are a very good way of getting debuffs for your defense. If you don't have them unlocked, and I know some people actually sleep on this, you really need to get them unlocked, okay? You need to get them unlocked. And of course, the more subcity slots you have, the more Spirit Beasts you can use, and it's a compounding effect, okay? Now, you might get to the point where you have more Spirit Beasts than sub-slots, in which case you have to decide which of the Spirit Beasts you want and which ones you want to take off. But of course, if in the future I get more sub-slots, I have Spirit Beasts to slap on there, okay? Now, key point to note is that the debuffs come from here in the Spirit Beast stats. The debuffs do not come from the Spirit Beast seals, okay? As far as I know, there are no debuffs in the Spirit Beast seals. So when we're talking about debuffs specifically, you have no business being here. All right. The next one that we want to talk about, and this one, for me, is particularly important. Civ treasures. We come over here. Civ treasures are a very significant source for buffs. Yes, but in my opinion, they're even more significant for the debuffs that you get from them. Okay? So look at this one here, for example. I have my Civ gear at level 6, okay? And from this particular one, I'm getting 62.5 mounted troop attack debuff. That's big. For you to get that from another place would be tough, okay? So Civ treasures, very good for debuffs. But with that being said, Civ treasures are difficult to get. That's just the way the game is. They are difficult to get. It's a long grind, right? You can get them from different sources, redeem them from events. You can even buy them in the market if you want, okay? Make sure you're getting them, because once you get to the point where you can upgrade, that's going to be a significant boost for you. Don't sleep on these things. Then, of course, the next place that we can get debuffs from is with research. Now, I won't cover this one too much. Why? Because the debuffs that we get from research are largely in the academy. Research in here is where you will get significant debuffs, okay? Like this one here, right? You need to do all of these things and clear them, complete them without mercy, without remorse, okay? Then the next place for debuffs that we're going to talk about is champions. Champions, you can get some decent debuffs from them. And the issue with champions is that because it's kind of like a passive thing that you do every day, some people forget about what's actually in there. All right? So let's take a look at Helen over here, for example. Okay, if we look at her skills, where is it? Right here, she's got enemy troop attack. If you upgrade that, that's great. That is enemy troop attack for all the troop types across the board. Okay, let's come to Elizabeth here. What does she have? She's got enemy ground and mounted troop attack. All right, great stuff. So, champions are another place that you need to focus on getting debuffs. As much as you can, try to unlock as many champions as possible, because that's extra debuffs for you to get. Yes, I know a lot of the new champions coming out require you to spend, and that might not be on the agenda for everyone, but wherever you can get those champions, get them, because there are debuffs sitting in there for most of them. Now, there are some other places where you can get debuffs here and there. But the key thing I want you to keep in mind, as we talked about earlier, is you need to know what your debuffs are right now. That is going to be your North Star, okay? The thing that guides you to help you build decent debuffs for your defense. If you don't know that, I can't help you, okay? So please, keep that in mind. If the stuff we've gone through so far has been helpful, please give the video a like and feel free to drop any comments or questions that you might have so that I can help you clear those up. The next thing that we're going to talk about in this series on defense is going to be troops. And we will talk about your troop distribution, things you should keep in mind, and I will show you what my troops currently look like. So stay tuned for that. That's it for me, guys. Thank you very much. Aka signing out.